Okay, this is pre-algebra, algebra 1.1, which is independent and dependent variables. So you're going to learn about a function. A function is a relationship between x and y. An independent variable, which is x, which is your input. Your dependent variable, which is y, which is your output. Your dependent always depends on the independent. So some words that they're going to use for independent, they might call it the domain, x, or input. And dependent, they might call your range, your y, or your output. Now, if you put gas in your car. If you put gas in your car, what's that allow you to do? Drive what? Drive your car how far? As far as how much gas you put in it, right? So you put in the gas, and then you get to drive a certain amount of miles, right?
Yes.
So the miles depend on how much gas is in your car.
Yes.
So when you put gas in your car, that's independent. And how many miles you go, that's dependent. Because the miles depend on how much gas you have. What about if you put 50 cents in a pop machine? What do you get out? A soda. A soda machine or a pop machine. So you put 50% in a pop machine and you get a pop out, right?
Yeah.
Or a soda machine, you get a soda out. What if you put $1 in the soda machine? Then you get 2 sodas, right? So that's a function. What you put in, you're getting the same thing out. The money that you put in is independent, and the pop is dependent. The pop depends on how much money you put in it, right? What about your parents getting paid on Friday? Their paycheck depends on what?
On how much they work, how many hours they work.
So their hours is independent, their paycheck is dependent, because the hours depend, or the paycheck depends on how many hours you work. Okay, when I'm not here, who's in my place? A substitute. So this right here is substitution. It tells me x is 5. So right here where x is, I'm going to put a 5. So it's y equals, and is that 25 or is it 2 times 5?
2 times 5.
2 times 5. What is 2 times 5? 10. So your answer depended on whatever x is, right? 2 times whatever x was. So 5 was independent and 10 was dependent. 5 was x, 10 was y. Let's look at this one. It tells me y, on number 2, y is 9. So where y is, I'm going to put the number and then write your problem. 9 equals 1/3 times x plus 2. I'm going to write it bigger. 9 equals 1/3 times x. It was plus 2? Yes. My problem said 1/3 times x plus 2. Okay, so what's my first step?
Put in 5 for x.
Subtract 2. Good.
They're not connected to the problems.
Okay. So now you're left with 7 equals 1/3 times x. Okay, I can divide. Landon said divide because that's times, right? I can divide and do 7 divided by 1/3. When you divide, what do you have to do? Keep, change, flip. Keep, change, divide to times, and flip. So you get 21 over 1, which is 21, right? There's also another way I could have done that. Anybody remember the other way? This says 1 divided by 3. What's the opposite of divide? I could have said times 3. Times 3. 3 times 7 is 21 equals 1 times x. And then if I need to divide by 1, x equals 21. Would both ways work? You can do whichever way is easier for you. This one gave me y and it gave me x, but it didn't tell me my equation. So I know y equals 3. Do something with 3 to get 12 as an answer. 3 times 4, right? So 3 is my x, so I'd say 4 times x. Does 4 times 3 give you 12? Okay, tell me another one. Okay, so 12 equals x plus 9. Did that work? 9 plus 3 is 12. What about, is there a number I can divide by 3 to get 12?
36.
36. So 36 divided by x gives you 12.
Yeah.
So all of these give you 12. Are they all a function?
Yeah.
They will all work. Says, identify the independent and dependent variables in the following scenarios. The Oklahoma State FFA Convention will be at the Cox Center in Oklahoma City. 240 students from across the state of Oklahoma are attending the convention. Each room will hold 4 students. So I need to know which one's independent and which one's dependent. My independent will never change. My dependent changes, right? What up there is not going to change?
The number.
Right. I have 240 students going. So that's my independent. What is my dependent? What depends on the amount of students going? So the dependent you said was the rooms. Do the number of rooms you need depend on how many students are going?
Yes.
So independent was student, dependent was rooms. The amount of rooms depends on how many students are going. Caps Middle School in Norman is hosting a carnival for the elementary students as a fundraiser. They will need 150 booths in order to have a successful carnival. That's what they need. 50 of the booths require 3 volunteers, and 100 of the booths require 2 volunteers based on the type of booth. So what would be my independent? What's not changing?
How many books are there?
Right. It's how many booths there are. And my dependent would be what? Volunteers. How many volunteers you need? That is based on how many booths you have, right?
Yes.
So the volunteers depends on how many booths you have. Says find the value for y if the function y equals 1/4 x minus 3 is given and x is 72. So they give you x, so you're going to plug it in where x goes, right? So you have y equals 1/4 times 72 minus 3. So do I have any parentheses? Do I have any exponents? Do I have any multiplication or division? So what's my multiplication?
1/4 times 71.
So 72, 1 times 72, and 4 times 1, minus 3. Now do I have any division?
Yep.
What is 72 divided by 4?
18.
18 minus 3. 18 minus 3.
No, 15.
15. And they gave me x, so that was y equals 15. Did I find the independent or dependent? They gave me x, I found y. Dependent. Y is always dependent. It's like, why do you depend on your calculator so much? Y is dependent. Why do you depend on, think of a way to remember y is dependent. Well, if you know y is dependent, you know x has to be independent, right? Find the value of x for the function, and it tells you y equals 3 times x plus 3, and it tells you y is 75. So right here where y is, I'm going to put what?
75.
How do I solve that?
You have to first you have to do the distributive.
Distributive. 3 times x is?
3x.
3 times 3 is?
9.
Then how do I solve it?
You subtract.
Subtract 9, because I want to get 3 and x by itself. 75 minus 9.
66.
And then you want to
Divide.
divide by 3. When I get that by itself, it's called isolating the variable, which means you get the variable alone. Isolate means get alone. Variable is a letter. Get the letter alone. Isolate the variable. So 66 divided by 3 is 22. And x is what? The independent. It says the Kitty Land Park in Duncan has several rides requiring 2 tickets each for adults. A A family pack includes entrance for 4 people, 4 drinks, 4 bags of popcorn, and 80 ride tickets. If mom, dad, and 2 children visit the park and purchase a family pack, how many tickets will they each have if they ride an equal amount and neither parent ride any? Are you finding the dependent or independent variables? So, what's not changing? What's there and it's not going to change?
The
The pack. The family pack is not changing, is it? What does the family pack include that it's asking us to find?
the ticket.
Right. So your independent would be your 80 ride tickets, right? Or you could just put ride tickets. What is the dependent? What's going to change?
The how many tickets?
How many tickets they each get? Kind of.
How many tickets are on you?
Think about it. What's changing in here? You had mom and
The
dad.
parents not getting
Right. So you could say the
parent tickets.
kids, right? The kids is the dependent because the amount of tickets depends on how many kids there are. Okay, so how many tickets will they each get? The kids can each get 40, right?
But since several rides require 2 tickets for each adult,
The adults aren't riding them. It said right here, and neither parent rides any ride. So the dependent is the kids, they get 40 tickets. They want to know, is it a function? So remember, a function is you put 50 cents in, you get a soda out. You put gas in the car, you can drive a certain amount of miles. You work so many hours, you get a paycheck, right? So they said the taller a person is determines the longer arm span they will have. So the taller you are, the longer your arms are. That's true. Right, because you're not going to be a 2-year-old with arms as long as me, right? So the taller you are, the longer your arms get. So yes, it's a function. What about this? The dolphin ride at the aquarium in Jinx is broken. You put 1 token in, and sometimes you get 1 ride, and sometimes you get 6 rides.
No.
Why is it not a function?
It has
Sometimes
nothing
you
to
get
do
one,
with
sometimes you get
dolphin
6.
broken.
It's random, right? Not a function. It's random. What you put in is not what you're getting out. So on number 1, you take x. X is 2, so you're going to plug it in here. So you'd have y equals 7 times 2 minus 5. And you would get an answer, right? Then you would take 5. Y equals 7 times 5 minus 5. Let's do this one. Y equals 7 times 2. What's 7 times 2? 14 minus 5.
9.
So your answer would be 9. The bottom one. 7 times 5. Minus 5. 30. So on number 2, you're doing the same thing except for you're putting 11 in for y. When you put 11 there, you have to move 3 over. How are you going to move 3 over? Subtract 3. Then you're going to divide by 2. Then do the same thing with 15. You're going to put 15 right there. So let's go on and look. Down here. Down here, you have to write your own function for each one.